Now, what are we talking about? I liked my analogy, but what do the experts think? Mark, how would you explain the cloud?
Well, I started to think about this in terms of what I do with my own day. So I get out of bed, I trundle over to the office, which is next to the bedroom, and I open up the computer, and immediately my email starts flowing in from the cloud because I use Google Mail, I use Gmail. And I take a look to see what I have on today on Google Calendar. And then I pick up my phone, which is an Android phone, which means it's connected to Google's cloud. And I was looking at this yesterday, getting progressively more and more paranoid because I realized that I didn't have any of this. It was all coming to me, as you said about electricity, from somewhere that I don't really know. But it's coming all magically, and it works almost all of the time.
And yet a landline, the old-fashioned phone, is like that too, isn't it? You own the phone, but you don't own...
You don't own anything behind it, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I also think, well, I might blog today. Well, if I blog, because I had a server at home that I was running my blog off of that melted down a year ago, what I decided to do is to rent some space on a computer in Atlanta, which is in the cloud. It's a cloud in Atlanta, and I run my blog off of that. So almost everything I'm doing day to day that's concerned with connecting with the outside world is happening to me via the cloud.
So, GP, would you agree that it's possibly not as scary and unfamiliar as perhaps it seems?
Yeah, of course. And reusing your analogy with the land mower.
Yeah, the big Microsoft guy is using my analogy. Right, good,
it's,
on camera, very nice.
You don't only use your lawnmower like 1% of the time, but another way of doing it is you can actually hire the services of a landscaper.
Yeah.
So then you change the relationship you have with your garden, where instead of operating the garden and cutting it yourself, you have someone who's a professional and doing it for you. So what you can do is you change the relationship in terms of, I need to do it, in terms of what is it that the garden should look like, and have someone doing it on your behalf.
So clearly you're implying I'm not a very competent lawnmower, something I always said I'm very good at it. Kevin, Wikipedia there's an analogy there, isn't there?
Oh, that's right. I mean, there's a great number of examples of things that we use in our normal day that is really starting to creep in. You know, we have some clearly firm definitions that have come out of places like NIST and the like about what cloud computing is. But if you would start to stand back and look at the likes of Wikipedia and the things that we use in our normal lives, it's already encroaching into that. The idea of putting things out there on the net, you know, we all know about the likes of Facebook, and some people have been burnt by putting stuff out there on Facebook that they perhaps shouldn't have.
Yeah.
But we understand the issue, or you know, we get it in our own head about security and the like. So why can't we translate those ideas into mainstream IT and use it in that sort of way?
Okay, so Glenn, then the question becomes, when we talk about the specific services that are being offered as the cloud now, how many of them are new, and in what way are they new?
They're kind of, in some senses, they're not new. You know, these things are being done for many years. You know, we've had computing systems to deliver all sorts of capability to organisations. What we're doing now, though, is actually delivering them as a service across the network, and that's kind of significant. And there's a number of different delivery models. We've been talking about public clouds. You know, there are people taking the same concept and implementing it inside their organisation as a private cloud. We can even do hybrid clouds where you can connect both. And there's an interesting...
Just flesh that out a bit, the distinction between public and private.
So the distinction between a private cloud is something that I might take this concept of a cloud computing, but I don't want to, for various reasons, I might want to do it inside my organisation. So I will instead of having, you know, separate servers, IT infrastructure, I'll pull all those resources together and make them available to whoever needs them inside the organisation.
Yeah.
So that's the idea of the private cloud. But then I can combine that with a public cloud, because I may not have all the resources I need, and sort of spill over and use public cloud resources if I need to, and that would be a hybrid cloud. And then there's some interesting models of community clouds where you actually deliver cloud computing resources to support some constituency, maybe all of the local councils, instead of having their own IT, you know, they could share it together and form a community cloud and deliver it effectively to all their organisations.
Right, and that possibly gives them a greater sense of security, that they still have control rather than it being right out there.
Yeah,
it's only a bit out there.
Yeah, so the thing is, it's really often a spectrum of choice that you have between cost and control.
Yep.
Usually the public cloud will be the most cost-effective way of accessing the cloud, but that's where you have the least amount of control, if you will, on what you get. If you have it locally in your private cloud, you will have a higher level of control on what it is, but usually you will have a higher level of cost. And it becomes the trade-off that you're comfortable in making between cost and control.
We'll talk a bit later about some of the concerns people might have with the cloud and what your response is, but just to flesh out the understanding a little bit more, who wants to have a go at telling me about infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, and business process as a service? The distinction between them and which ones are proving at this point the most popular. Glenn.
I'm trying to figure out how to kind of relate this to a lawnmower. I may fail dramatically. So we've started sort of bottom layer. I think people kind of get it, this concept of infrastructure. So a server that has some compute resources, some memory, some disk, and so on. You know, instead of having that beside me in my office or on my raised floor, you know, I can go and rent that. I can get that service out there in the cloud, and that's infrastructure. And then you're kind of responsible for it. Amazon have something called the Elastic Compute Cloud, and that's probably the most famous public infrastructure as a service cloud. So if you go up the next layer, you end up you're in the platform as a service. And that's where it's built on top of an infrastructure as a service layer, but it delivers a set of applications that you then might put your code, you know, the business applications you've written on that platform, and you get all of the advantages of the cloud. The next layer up is the software as a service, and that's kind of a good example of that is the Google Gmail. You know, that's delivering an email service to me. I don't care about the software. I don't care about the infrastructure. And then you get up to a level above that is this concept of business process as a cloud, and that's where you might actually offer like an HR end-to-end service. You know, we'll do your payroll, we'll do performance appraisals, we'll do the whole thing, and we'll deliver that to you as a cloud service using all of those layers below it.